This is Dan Abbott. I'm making this video to help you understand how to use DraftSight to create two-dimensional orthographic drawings that represent a 3D part. For this part, I'm going to use something called a hold down, something you might clamp to the bed of a milling machine to help align another part while it's being machined. If we take a look at this, you see as I move it around, it's got a couple notches in the corner. It's got a couple of notches as well. If you look at it from the top view right here, it's got a slot down the middle, and it's very symmetrical. If I were to look at it from the front, it would look like this. If I were to convert that into lines with hidden lines and hard edges, it would look like that. Those edges would be representing the edges of the part as you see it. If we then move it so that you can see it from the right side edges would look like that. Go back to the front view, rotating it around so we can see it from the top now. Top view would look like this. So this part looks like that. You can see the hidden lines representing the individual corners going back. Isometrically, we'd normally draw it like this. If we go down and take a look at a orthographic drawing of it with a front, a right, and a top view, it would look like that. So there's your part. The part isn't, that's an isometric view of the part, which is not a technical drawing, by the way. We don't use isometric views for technical drawings because they're just not accurate. So we need a front, a right, and a top view. A little more involved in the last part we did, and I'm going to show you a little different technique. We're going to use something called an infinite line for this, and we're going to draw an infinite line, which is essentially a construction line. It's going to go all the way across the bottom here, going to go all the way along the vertical edge right there, and then we're going to use a command called offset. And the offset command is going to be used to block in each of those views, to put in the space between each view, which in this case is going to be 2 inches, only because 2 inches happens to work as far as leaving enough room for those dimensions. It doesn't have to be 2 inches. Sometimes it's less, a lot of times it's more. So the edge you see right here, the line you see right here is known as a symmetry line. It's a center line with two dark, thick bars, and it just tells you that this part is symmetrical about that center line right there. So go back to DraftSight. I've already set up some layers. I'm going to go to layer 0 though for right now. And I'm going to go over to the line command, and instead of picking line, I'm over to the drawing toolbar. Instead of picking line, I'm going to go to infinite line. I'm going to type in 1.29 comma 1.6 just to have a starting point. So I'm going to go until I'm going to change my polar settings because right now I've got them set to 30, but by default you're going to find that they're set to 90, which means that if I line right up like that, I've got a horizontal line, left click, I got an infinite horizontal line. I come over here until it goes straight up and down, left click, I have an infinite vertical line. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, just so we can see just a little bit better. Now I'm going to start by offsetting that line up 1.5 because 1.5 is the height right here of that part. So as I offset that up, I can go over here to the modify toolbar and pick the offset command right here, or I can type the letter O. When you type offset, it asks you for a distance. I'm going to type in 1.5. I'm going to select this line, offset it up 1.5, zoom out just a little bit more. Now I'm going to press the enter key again. That puts me back in the offset command. And when I go back into the offset command, I'm now going to type 4.12, which is the width of the front view. All I have to do is select a line and then move to one side or the other and then select again. And select is always with the left button. Now, that's my front view blocked in. I'm now going to offset 2 inches because I'd like 2 inches of space between each view. So I'm offsetting that 2-inch line, and then I'm offsetting that 2-inch line. Now that means that I've got a 2-inch space here, and I've got a 2-inch space up here, and I'm just again starting to lay out the front view, which goes right in here. The top view is going to be lined up on this edge, and the right side view is going to be lined up on that edge. Since the width of this part is 2.3, the width has to be the same in the top and the right side view. I'm now going to go back in, offset 2.3. Now I'm going to select that line right there, offset it over. Select that line right here, offset it up. And if I use my DI command, get distance, I'm just going to check and make sure did it come out correctly. I'm going to pick the point from here to here. Distance is 2.3. I pick the point from here to here. The distance of that is 2.3. So now what I can do is to clean this up a little bit so I have a clear outline of the front view, the top view, and the right side view. To do that, I'm going to use the trim command, which is little scissors over on the modify toolbar. I could also type TR for trim. So I pick the trim command. tells me if I press enter I get all entities, or I can be selective. Well, I don't really want to be selective, so I'm going to press enter. In this case, I don't. Most of the time you do want to be selective, but in this case, having every line on the screen be a trim line is fine. I can now pick the things I want to get rid of, and it tells me that I can do that with a crossing, a cross line, a fence. So I'm going to use the fence because it allows me to pick a point here, left click, go up here, left click, over here, left click, down here, left click, across here, left click, because I want to clean up all of these infinite lines that go beyond the primary views. Now there's my front view, there's my top view, there's my right side view. Periodically, not a bad idea to just use the disk command and kind of check your work. Is that really 2.3? That looks good. Is that really 4.12? That looks good. Is the height of this really 1.5? Yeah. Is the distance from here to here, is that 2? I missed it apparently, so let's go back and use the intersection. 2 is correct. And is the distance from here to here 2.3? And it is. Now I'm on the layer 0. Right now I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to draw a line from this corner right here up to the opposite corner of that little box, because that little box is a result of my offsetting 2 inches between the view and the right and the front, and 2 inches between the front and the top. Which means if I connect the two, I've got a hypotenuse of a triangle, and the triangle is a right triangle with 2 legs that are equal, so I must have a 45-degree angle. To check that, I could use one of the dimension commands. If you go to the pull-down menu under dimension, one of the things you can do is to dimension an angle. I'm going to go down and pick angle. I'm going to say, what is the angle between this line and this line? Put the dimension in and it says 45. That's pretty reassuring. But if I were really concerned about whether or not that was exactly 45, I would select that dimension, go over to the properties window, drag it on down. Under primary units, I would change the unit precision from 0 to 8 places, and then go back and take a look and think, yeah, that's exactly 45 degrees. So now I've got my right side view, my front view, and my top view laid out. I'm now going to put the lines that will be trimmed into object lines. And by the way, I did not mean to delete that miter line, so I'm going to put that back in. So now I'm going to take all these lines. You notice, by the way, I'm using a crossing window, right to left. Left click, move to the left, left click again, and that allows me to select everything inside that window and everything that that window touches. If I'd gone the other way and said left click and then gone to the right with a blue window, it would only pick things that were entirely inside that window. So in this case, I would only get 2 lines. So I'm going to go right to left, pick all those lines, right to left, pick those lines, go to the drop down, put them on the object layer, and I've already set the line type display to show line widths on the screen. If you type line weight, you'll notice right here the little check mark, display line weight, or display weight in graphics area. I just set that in order to see this, but I thought it'd be easier for you to see. Now I'm going to start to do a little bit more work. I'm going to do some more offsetting. And what I want to do is to create this edge right there as a feature in both the top and the front view. That's 0.94. And I want to create this edge right here as a feature that's 0.76 above. And it's the same height over here. And this is the beauty of using offset with these infinite lines. If I offset 0.94 and I grab that line right there, left click, move to the right, left click again, I get a line in the top view and a line in the front view that are directly lined up because they're the same line, which they have to be. I go back into the offset command, 0.76, enter. Take this bottom line and I bring it up like that. Now I've got this line and this line lined right up, which is what I want as well. Press escape, I'm out of the offset command. At this point, maybe not a bad idea to clean this drawing up a little bit. So I'm going to go over to my trim command. This time I'm going to be selective. I'm going to pick these 2 lines right here. I'm going to pick this line and this line. And I guess I'll pick that one as well. And I'm going to go, after I've selected those, press enter. Now I'm going to say, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. This, and that. Might as well bring that up there as well. Can't do that because I never picked that as a trim line. So now I'm actually done trimming. But you see what I've got is the L-shaped piece in the front, a little more clear. If I want to clean it up some more, I could go up here and then say, yeah, let's get rid of that right there. And I might even have said, let's take this line and this line, make them both trim lines, press enter, and then drag a crossing window or a fence through here. So now there's my front view, there's my right side view, there's my top view. Let's zoom in on this right side view. There's a line starting 0.4 units down that goes up at an angle of 30 degrees. Right now my polar track settings are set to 90. Well, that's by default what they're set for. If I go to the line command and I hover over this corner, hover means I'm not selecting anything, and I go and just move my mouse down, type 0.44, I'm starting the line exactly 0.44 units down. It'd be kind of nice to be able to draw at an angle of 30 degrees. So if I go to polar tracking, right click, there's a settings option here which may be off of the screen as far as the way I'm videoing it, but it just says settings. Comes up and looks like that, and I can say, listen, my incremental angle, I want it to be set to 30 instead of 90. Come back down here like this. Now I've got 0, 30, and 90 all as tracking angles. Now if this were AutoCAD, you'd be able to track right up and snap to the intersection between these two. In DraftSight, you have to acquire another edge and have it track over. So now I've got two tracking edges showing right here. Left click and I'm going to stop exactly where I want to go, but it won't just intersect with that line. You've got to get another tracking line. This is something that I think DraftSight might add in the future, but for right now that's what it looks like. Now I'm actually still on layer 0. I didn't mean to be, so let me go and make object my current layer. I'm now going to select the line I just drew and put it on the object layer. Now I'm going to use the mirror command to mirror that over here because there's symmetry right down through the center, and I'm not going to waste my time doing the same work twice. If I come over to the right, there's that bell symbol. That is the mirror command, or you can type MI at the command line. You select what you want to mirror. When you're done selecting, you press the right button or you press the enter key. Now I'm going to go and snap to the midpoint of that line, and then I'm going to go straight down. If I didn't go straight down, for instance, I'm over here at an angle of 30 degrees. Right there, I'm at another angle of 30 degrees. You can see where I pick this next point determines where that goes. What I really want to do is go straight down, and you can see that moving into place as I come down here. Left click, press enter. I've got that cleaned up. I'll go to the trim command. I'll pick that edge and this edge, and now I'm going to use a crossing window through here, crossing window through here, and now I have my right side view laid out. I'm not going to put these lines in just yet. I'm going to do something else with that miter line in order to do that. We go back and take a look at this part. Let's go over here where we've got that edge right there representing the notch that's been cut out. 0.26 over, 0.4 up. I'm going to use offset for that as well. So I come in here, offset, 0.26. I grab this line right here, which is one complete line. I bring it over, and again, I get the top view and I get the front view. Same feature in both views, just like I want it to be. Now suppose I wanted to check and see, did I really type in 0.96 here? I can't see it anymore here, but if I press the F2 button, I get my command window, and when I get my command window, I see right here specified distance 0.26, so I did type that in correctly. Close my command window like that. I'll go back out to offset 0.4 now, and I'm going to offset this line down and this line up 0.4 just to recognize, just to get those corners right there. Again, stop and trim whenever things start to get a little confusing for you. So what I'm going to do now is go to the trim command, and what I'll do is to say I want to trim here and here, and then we can just get rid of all those lines right there. Go back up. I'm going to pick all of those edges as trim edges. By the way, I'm going back in the trim command simply by pressing the space bar, which acts like the enter key or the right button to repeat my last command. I'm going to say I want to use all of these lines right here. I'm using a crossing window. I want all those lines to be trim lines. Enter. And now I can clean up using a crossing window or individual selections. Just kind of grabbing this. So now I've got my little corners in here. Everything is looking a lot more like it's supposed to. I can go back into trim, use those two lines as trim lines, clean that out of here. Do the same thing down here. So now I've got a front view, a right side view, and a top view that are all laid out and blocked in, and I know they line up because they were drawn with the same lines. Let's go to the top here now. On the top, well, let me show you something. There's a common mistake in this kind of feature. I want to go back and take a look at the actual model itself. Let's make it look like a model. If you take a look at that model right there, this top surface and that slot are completely unrelated features. That slot could be gone and it wouldn't affect this. That could be, you could get those corners back in and it wouldn't affect that slot. And yet, for people who are beginners in technical graphics, it is very, very common to assume that if that line and that line look like they line up, then they must line up. In fact, they don't. Let's go back out here now. That is 0.78 from here to here. There is no dimension put here because it's the result. Those two lines are the result of cutting the corners off 0.44 down at an angle of 30 degrees. That edge and that edge have no connection to each other. People often make a mistake, however, when they start drawing, and I'll show you why that is. I'm going to draw a line now that starts at this corner right here, and I'm just going to drag it up past my miter line. Draw another line right here. It goes up past that miter line as well. Now I'm going to go back into the line command, and I'm going to say, starting at this intersection right here, let's go perpendicular to that line. Starting at this intersection right here, let's go perpendicular to that line. Oop, didn't quite work. I'm going to grab my grip and bring it back. Okay, so there's no question that what I've just done is to project that surface up here. If I now use the trim command and trim to here, I'm in pretty good shape. But I'm going to bring those lines back. And now what I'm going to do is to draw a circle starting here, back 1.12 with a diameter of 0.78. Now a lot of people would look at those two and say they are exactly the same size. But if you zoom right in on these two things, you'll see that there is not a equality here. That circle is actually a little wider than that part on the top, which means be careful that you don't accidentally use those two lines right there because they look like they're in the right place to represent that slot. Those two lines don't represent that slot. So I'm going to go over here and pick this as a trim line, get rid of those lines, and now I'm going to draw the side of the slot by going from the quadrant of that circle over here, from the quadrant down here over here. Now when I go to the trim command, I can say let's trim between these two lines, drag something through here, and now the slot's in the right place. Those lines are no longer necessary. I'm going to delete them so they don't confuse me later on. Now if we take a look at the top view has a symmetrical feature, which is that little corner that's missing, and it's symmetrical with a feature down below. We're going to do the same thing with the mirror command. So I go back, DraftSight, go into the line command, and I'm going to hover over this corner, and I'm going to go straight down. And as I go straight down, I want to make sure that I don't accidentally select something else. So I'm going to get rid of that. Going straight down 0.3 means I'm starting my line 0.3 down, which is what it tells me on the drawing. Now I'm going to go back and hover again. This time I'm moving to the left, and I'm going to type in 1.9, because what I've just done is told DraftSight to start a line 0.3 down from that corner and 1.9 back from that. And by the way, all of these tracking tools result in geometry that is perfect. Not a bad idea to check it once in a while, just in case you made a mistake when you were placing it. But those tracking tools, if they're used correctly, create perfect geometry. Go back to the trim command. I'm going to trim to that edge right there. Get rid of those. And then once again, because I've got symmetry, I'm going to say let's mirror this line. And I can pick any point on the symmetry line. So I can pick the center of this, for instance. And again, you see what I've got to do is I've got to go straight over here so I see a tracking line. Left click, enter, trim to here, enter, get rid of that. Now I've got my top view all laid out. So what else do we need to put in? Well, there's some features over here we need to put in. And those features over there could also be projected through that miter line. So I could say let's draw a line starting from this corner, for instance, and bring it across so that it crosses here. Go back up to that intersection and then come down perpendicular right there. That edge. Do the same thing with this. Actually, we don't need to because we got symmetry over here as well. That edge is a hidden line, so now I'll use the trim command, trim that down like that, and I'm going to take that line and put it on the hidden line layer. Looks like that. Looks pretty good. Don't have to adjust the line type scale. The segments look good. If I wanted to adjust the line type scale, I would select it, go over here, there's my scale, and if, for instance, I want it to be a little bit shorter segments, maybe I could change those to 0.8. Now I've got more line segments there. Now I'm going to have to mirror a few other things as well because I've got these corners here, and one of them represents that edge and one of them represents that edge. Now I happen to know what they are. I happen to know that's 0.3 because it tells me here, and then I happen to know that's 0.46 from there. So there's two ways I could do this. I could project through the miter line, or I could just say let's offset 0.3, bring this line over here. Now let's offset again 0.46 and bring this line over to here. Now I'll just trim to that edge right there, and I'll get rid of this and I'll get rid of that. Now my mirror command allows me, I'm going to use a window, not a crossing window this time, to grab all of these things right here. Now I've got to be careful because my window goes around something I don't really need to mirror, which is that angled line. Also this line. What I'm going to do instead of mirroring those is to hold the shift key down, select that edge and select this edge, and what that allows me to do is to remove them from the selection set. So by just selecting them with the shift key held down, they come out of the selection set. Now I'm done making a selection set. Press enter. I'll go to the midpoint, go straight down, press enter, and now I've mirrored those features over here. So the only thing left to do now is to erase that since I don't need it anymore. Erase this and this since I don't need those anymore. And then to go over to the other side and project from that quadrant all the way down to here so that I can have trimming to this. I can have that line on the line called hid, so I have a hidden line right there. Oh, there is one more thing though. I haven't projected this corner over here and I haven't projected that endpoint over there, so let's do that. I'm going to project a line by snapping to here, coming all the way across, and I'm going to come all the way across to here. And what I've just done is I've created that edge right there, which has to line up right with this edge because it's that feature right here. Now there's one other feature. We'll do a little trimming on that too just to get rid of it. Okay, there's one other feature, which is where does that little short line come in? That little short line right there, again, orthographic projection, is projected directly from that hidden line because it's that corner right there, which is the same as that corner right here. So when I took this and projected to the miter line and down, that feature ends here. That means that little line is going to end right at that feature as well. I'll go back to DraftSight, and I'll go back to DraftSight, and I'm going to draw a line that goes from the end of this line. And you got to be careful here. I need to go from the end of this line, not from the midpoint of that line. You notice I'm picking this line to go to the end point, off the end point, so I don't make a mistake. Now that comes across like this. I go perpendicular, do some trimming right here. I can get rid of this and I can get rid of that. And what I have right now is this entire drawing, all three views. And if we go back and look at the actual model, which is this model right here, that's what the top view looks like. That's what the front view looks like. And that's what the right side view looks like because that's how they would actually appear. Just like that collection, just like that in DraftSight. This is a 23-minute video at this point, so I'm going to stop. We'll put the center marks in when we put dimensions on it, but there's your geometry right there.